Spoken Lavel. I haven't thought about flying for a long time. I haven't dreamed of that moment when I was alone above the clouds for a long time. I've dreamed of waking up in a room surrounded in blue and green grass for more years than I could dream of remembering. I haven't walked back into the past or scratched on the doors of my origins, where it all came from, since I held up that cape for the last time.
Return to Kent Town 10th Year Anniversary Edition is a revised version of Andy N's first poetry book. The book can be purchased from Amazon and it contains numerous additional material.
Spoken Lavel. Hi guys, it's Andy N. Thanks today for downloading or streaming yet another episode of Spoken Lavel. As you may or may not be aware, Spoken Lavel was started in the beginning of 2006, and currently we have well over 150 sessions recorded since then. Although you can find it on various networks, the full archive is available for streaming and downloading at Spoken Lavel bandcamp.com. It is a free download or free stream in there, but obviously if you feel like chucking me a few pennies that way, it'd be eternally grateful to help me keep this podcast going and keep improving my equipment, etc. Enjoy. Speak to you soon. Bye bye. Spoken Lavel.
Hi guys, Andy N, Spoken Lavel, back in the house again today on this lovely sunny afternoon in Manchester. Now, I'm back on Zoom again today, and I've got a gentleman on the phone who's, by the look of it, because probably as varied in his upbringing on the creative side as I am. So, Grae, do you want to introduce yourself to everybody? Tell them who you are, what sunny part of the country you come from, and lead us into where all your creativity originally came from, and we'll take it from there.
Sure. So, it's Grae here, and I live in St Albans. Always lived in this part of the world. Really, my family are half from London and half from up near Blackpool. And I've been writing poetry since I was really young, and the influence for that was definitely my mum. One of the first things really I remember about the use of words and the creative use of words was my mum would write poems quite often about little local issues. So if there was something like people were writing into the local paper about the fact that youths were drinking cider in the middle of town and people were worried about it or whatever, my mum would write a poem about this and send it into the local paper. And quite often they would print her poems. And this would somehow kind of diffuse situations a bit. People would get a little bit less het up and perhaps see different angles and other people's angles from my mum's poetry. And I loved that. And that was a huge influence. And so I saw that power, the potential power of poetry and creativity through my mum from that crazy early age, really.
Yeah. Now that you mentioned about your mum, obviously, I know you said about you said it before your mum's no longer with us, sadly. But was your mum quite a comical writer? Was she quite a serious poet?
She did both. So as a kid, the poems that we saw were quite often those ones that did have a humour or almost like a punchline to them. What was kind of interesting was, I mean, a little bit heartbreaking, if I'm honest, was when she passed away. We found the box of all the poems that she'd never shared, those ones that she'd written for herself, which of course were the more serious and sort of soul searching poems, which some of which were very hard to read at that point. Oh, yeah. But equally as good, equally as strong. So just for her sort of friends and family, we after her death, we produced a little book combining some of the funny ones and some of those serious ones as well.
Yeah, of course, and that makes sense. Now, you were telling me off mic before, just before we started, and your reading taste was, I put it bluntly, quite extraordinary for a 7, 8, 9-year-old. So tell us about what led you into reading Shakespeare and Chaucer when you're 7, 8, and 9. That's extraordinary.
It was. I mean, people probably thought I was such a weird little kid. But I'll tell you what it was. It was. I had wonderful English teachers, both at primary school and secondary school, and to be honest with you, I was rubbish at everything else. It was pretty much the only thing I could do. So the fact that there was a teacher actually sort of patting me on the back and saying you're doing okay, I grasped this, with both hands and just loved it. So everything they put my way, and I would read and absorb and love. So yeah, as I say, and obviously, I mean, with something like Chaucer, funny enough, I think because you've got the kind of bawdy humour there, actually it works really well when you like an 8, 9-year-old kid. You can see the jokes in there, and it's sort of on your level in a funny way.
Yeah. No, get you completely. Yeah, it's just I was amazed about what was your first play of Shakespeare's you read then, or as a kid then? Can you remember now?
So we did Macbeth at our primary school, and again in a funny way, I think because because it's so gruesome and murderous.
I read it was 14. It shocked me that piece at the time. So.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's but those the ideas in it, the idea of the forest moving down on the castle, all those sort of visions. I can remember reading them and just being transfixed and absolutely loved it. So yeah, it was. So for a while, it was Shakespeare was the guy.
Well, I was hard reading that. I think I was reading The Bean and the Dandy at that age. And you were reading Shakespeare and Chaucer. Now, obviously, seriously, I know when you got to level 12, didn't you? You tasted the change a bit. You were telling me about David Bowie before, weren't you, when you got to level 12?
Yeah, absolutely. It was. I think he was definitely one of the first people. It was the Aladdin Sane album, and the first single of any note that I bought was Driving Saturday by David Bowie, and it was that thing that it was definitely it was the lyrics and the strength of the lyrics, his use of words, which really appealed to me, and I found fascinating. And then of course, having been drawn in, you sort of go back to, and with an album like Hunky Dory, you've got actually quite straight poems being used in between songs with albums like that, and so from there on, this fascination with lyricists, performers who were using the strength of words that powerfully along with music was. Did you carry on following Bowie for the rest of his career? Did you? I did. So fortunately, I got to see him a couple of times.
Yeah, I did as well. I saw him on the Outside tour in '95, was it?
Okay.
That was one where we did it with Trent Reznor from 9 Inch Nails. And that was an extraordinary night. I'm not going to forget either. So I remember that one because that was when the 9 Inch Nails came on, did an hour. Then Bowie came on, played a couple of songs with 9 Inch Nails, and part of 9 Inch Nails went off and Trent Reznor stayed on. And Bowie's band came on. They just kept playing straight for the full night. It was 3 hours solid.
Wow.
Yeah, it was some gig. So when did you see Bowie live then?
So the first time was the Serious Moonlight tour, which was at Milton Keynes, and then later I saw him at Glastonbury. His Glastonbury performance was amazing because he did what the people wanted, which was a pure kind of greatest hits set. But you could tell he was really, really relishing it, really enjoying it.
Yeah, of course.
And yeah, great show.
Yeah. What did you think to his last album, Black Star?
I loved it. Actually, I loved the last 2 albums.
Oh yeah, the Other Day the one's called. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
2 really extraordinary albums. And only Bowie could go and do for me is an album talking directly about his death. Then he dies 2 days after it came out or something like that.
I know, and it is. I mean, it's so. No, those last 2 albums. I keep going back to again and again. They're so amazing.
Yeah, great stuff.
And actually, just after he died, I was on tour performing with a couple couple of the guys from my band and we were in Berlin, and we went on a little pilgrimage to the street where he and Iggy Pop had lived in Berlin, and just kind of stood outside their flat. And in fact, the cafe next door had a big black star in the window, obviously from the album. And it was just, it felt like something we really needed to do. It was just, we didn't really know what to do once we got there. We just knew we wanted to kind of go there and stand in that.
Yeah, completely. That makes perfect sense. Now, you were telling me as well when you got to 15, there seems like it was development in you as a person all along, really. You told me about your love of Patti Smith, didn't you, as well?
Yeah.
And when you first heard Piss Factory. When I was about the same age, and I heard that as well. I remember that. It's an extraordinary song, that's for sure.
It was a genuine epiphany, that pure visceral combination of poetry and rock and roll. It's something so pure about it. It's like she stripped everything back, taking us back to sort of ground zero. It's an amazing piece, and I still go back to it again and again, and I don't think it's lost any of its power over the years. The anger and the bile and this small town girl desperate to escape, and using her words to do that, using her voice to do that. There's something incredibly powerful about it. I still love Patti Smith, and fingers crossed, we've got tickets to go see her later in the year, if by that point things have opened again.
Yeah, fingers crossed. It's very hard to judge what way things are going at the moment. Lots of that's
so,
why. So
she was, and from Patti Smith, there was obviously around her. You had Richard Hell, who'd come from the same stable, really, of starting with poetry and then combining it with rock and roll. Developed my love for Leonard Cohen. I was also very fortunate later that one of the bands I was in, we got to support John Cooper Clarke.
Oh, wow.
And that was, again, obviously that, such an influence. And so being able to hang out with John backstage and chat to him was a real blessing. I mean, that was a lovely moment.
You're telling me as well, obviously, before we talked as well, that music's always been a passion people might guess in your life. But poetry was always there about the same time, wasn't it? And it took you quite a long while for the poetry to come to the forefront more, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was, so as I say, when I was a kid, I would always walk around with this little notebook and write the poems. Then when the music kicked in, really, so definitely. I mean, it was the sort of post-punk period. The music side came to the fore. I was still writing poems, but really I was concentrating on lyrics, and that was where I was at. But then about 20 years ago, I had my kind of breakdown moment, and I was left sort of with all those classic things that so many others have shared, of the anxiety and the depression and the feeling lost and helpless, and that was when I kind of rediscovered my love of performing poetry, of actually sharing poetry, and I wanted to. That was the format that I found most useful for getting my feelings out at that time, and finding that there were others that were sharing similar experiences through poetry, and being able to share with them in different places, different pages, and had a few things published in magazines, sometimes with that sort of perspective that it was about mental health issues, and others just.
It usually is a poetry to start with, at least. I always find so. Yeah, completely.
So it was great. It also led me to other sort of areas. I started reading ancient Buddhist poetry around that time as well.
Completely. Yeah, I'm an ex-full Buddhist myself. Just don't get time for it nowadays. But yeah, it does help you, doesn't it? Like to learn to reevaluate yourself completely of everything. So, great stuff.
Totally, yeah. And it was from there really that so looking for places to share online and become parts of sort of poetry communities, and I was sort of finding it difficult to find a page that I felt particularly comfortable sharing with. So I started this little page called the Poetry Underground on Facebook, and that's sort of slowly developed into a lovely little community. We actually had our first. It's been going now for quite some years, but we actually had our first ever. Due to the lockdown, we decided to do a Poetry Underground live online gig.
Oh, fantastic! How did that go?
It was great. I mean, obviously, all those problems of people at the last minute discovering they can't see where the live video button is, and all these things
I can relate to that.
Encountering at the moment, but it was beautiful. It was a lovely little sharing. So over the course of about 2 hours, I think we had about nine or 10 poets came on and did 2 or 3 poems each. So a whole sort of evening of guerrilla online poetry happening.
Wow,
which was lovely. It was lovely. And it's the first time that a lot of us had actually sort of met each other, because we've all been sharing in this space. But not seen each other's faces really. So,
it's typical. That is. It's what it's been. The one thing this virus thing I think has done that's really good is it's let people that are poets interact with other poets from sometimes other countries even that certainly may have never met before. And certainly over this period, I've met like a couple of poets in South Africa and Italy and Australia. It's interesting, really interesting times at the moment. Yeah.
No, it is. You're absolutely right. It's in a funny way. It's made the world even smaller, hasn't it? Because it not only are we all spending more time staring at our computer screens, but we all have this shared problem. Yeah, it's like wherever you are in the world, we're actually going through the same thing. We're all experiencing this same thing, which is affecting our lives.
I think it has. As you'll say yourself, it has changed the way you look at things. The rest of everybody, permanent in this case, certainly. So that's why. So, have you been writing much over the virus period, really yourself? Have you, or bits and pieces?
Yeah, one or two poems have come out. One called "The New Normal," which just seemed like such a phrase, isn't it? The new normal.
Oh yeah, completely.
Everyone's got their own vision of what the new normal will be or what it should be. So I found that a fascinating area. There's some of the stuff is almost there's stuff going on now that I know I will write about that's almost just too huge right now to. I need time to process. I mean, what's going on in the US at the moment? Amidst all this,
terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying.
Terrifying stuff. And I'm sure that will, hopefully in a positive way, inspire creativity at a later stage. But at the moment, it's too raw and it's too there in the face.
I've known somebody that used to front a band I used to do years ago. That's lived in Texas. And they were telling me on Facebook recently, they have actually a restaurant that got burnt down, basically. Right. Because just for the sheer riots kicking off. And they basically employed lots of staff and all kinds of activity rates and stuff. And it just kicked off up the road from them. And the restaurant came back to work the next morning. It wasn't there.
It's terrible. I mean, it's an awful thing. There's definitely, it's this awful thing, unfortunately, that people end up protesting in their own neighborhoods, and then things get out of hand, and their own neighborhoods end up getting burned, which is the opposite of what should be happening. But it's a terrible situation.
Everybody involved, right? Let's hope it calms down shortly, certainly. So,
absolutely.
Now, what plans do you have for the future then, Grae? Do you have any more ideas for any more music coming up, or would you like to perhaps do a book even?
I've absolutely, and in a funny way, this period has sort of has helped me with that, because I went into my wife's got this little summer house at the bottom of the garden.
Oh yeah.
I've taken it over as a recording studio.
Sounds good idea to me, mate.
So a big shout out and big love to my wife for allowing me to do that. But so because I couldn't get together with any of my kind of musical compadres, I decided to record a little album in isolation. And because it was just me, that album has ended up being 5 poems and 6 songs. I think it's something like that. Anyway, but a genuine combination. And I've loved doing that. And actually, I think post lockdown, I want to continue to not keep things in their own little boxes. I'm also I'm a big a very keen lo-fi photographer. I like what they call lomography. So I use very cheap plastic cameras and love trying to get great shots. And I love this idea post lockdown of not keeping these things in their little boxes, but trying to actually combine and find a way of allowing them to breathe next to each other in performance, whether that be live or on a page or in an exhibition. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, obviously, like you said before, you've been talking about all these lo-fi recordings. I can certainly see here. I know you bought an album out in April, didn't you? Mouseclubvirus.
Yes.
Which is obviously a big hint of basically the way it worked for you then, basically, didn't it? So, was it quite a quick album to do? This one, was it? Did you find?
Yeah. Well, I did it over the course of about 2 weeks. But I did it very, very much. The technique is like a kind of old field recordings, but instead of an old reel-to-reel, I've just got a very simple MP3 recorder. So that's all it's recorded on. And I just set up in a shed with the guitar and vocals going through a very small amp just to give them a little bit of edge. And it's that simple. It's that simple. But yeah, it was nice. It was and actually then being able to place poems next to the songs and find an order and a sense and a flow to it was really interesting to do. Something I haven't really done before. So yeah, I've really enjoyed it.
Excellent. Now, obviously, do you have any sort of plans you want to do next? Do you think you want to do another album of mouseclubvirusblues, or you're not sure yet?
Possibly. I definitely. I mean, what I want to do is probably play around with the idea of doing sets which are perhaps 50-50 poetry and music, and play with those ideas. And I think an order and a sense will come through, which will inspire another album. And I think it will improve my writing muscle as well, having that in mind. Because I think there's nothing like kind of knowing that you've got performances coming up where you can use new material and try new material to enthuse you to actually get on and put pen to paper. So
yeah, okay, agree with you completely. Having any sort of project you do as an artist, whatever form, you've got to. There always has to be a development in it, doesn't it? It has to be like a movement where you move on to something. And we don't, because all creative people you can never stand still. I can see that you're like that sort of person. You've always been there. You've moved along, haven't you? You're constantly trying out new ideas all the time.
Yeah,
it's the perfect way of doing it. So, if people want to find out more about you, where are they best going?
Well, I'm on all those sort of places, but the best place, honestly, I think for your audience to come and find us is at the Poetry Underground on Facebook, and because I'm the facilitator, the admin at that page, you can find me through that page. But also as you mentioned, the recordings, including the poetry recordings, you'll find me at Bandcamp, which is Grae J Wall. So that's GraeJWall.bandcamp.com. So yeah, Facebook or Bandcamp are the best places. I'm on Instagram, but I don't do much there, if I'm honest.
I'll join the club. I just put rubbish on Instagram, so I know what you mean. So brilliant. That's all the questions anyway. So what we're going to do, guys and girls, we'll let Grae get himself prepared for a couple of poems for us. We'll be right back to you in a few minutes. So hang around, everybody. It's been a great chat today. Thank you, Grae. See you all in a minute.
Thanks.
Spoken Lavel.
Hi guys. Okay, still here with Grae. He's going to do a couple of poems for us, and the plan is, well, I'm going to put on a couple of tracks from his last album as well as a bonus at the end of the session. So we'll come on to that in a minute. Over to you, Grae, my friend.
Thanks. So the first one I'm going to do is a poem called Breathe. And it was a poem I literally wrote on a train journey heading down to Catalonia to play some gigs with a friend of mine. Hopefully it's one of those things that will resonate with people about coming through a feeling of anxiety and coming out the other end. But anyway, as I say, it's called Breathe. A minor blip, a small setback, a little shake where a shake shouldn't be. Did anyone see? And breathe. The train travels relentlessly towards the Spanish border. It's dark outside and I've slept for a few hours. Take a photograph through the window. No idea where we are, but as good a place as any to freeze a moment. Intermittently, we speed through a sleeping station, ochre shadows and lamplit stairs. For a second there, the silhouettes of houses. Perhaps in one sits a man who cannot sleep, the only sound to break his silent contemplation being the muffled thunder of the occasional night train. After some while, hairline cracks of red on the horizon begin to break the black. Vague outline clouds and ghost trees, fences, fields, graffiti on a bus shelter, as grey turns to brown and yellow to green. The blur past stations now possess occasional familiarity, as stations often do, kindly and reminiscent of past adventure. The train slows as it crosses the border. Little changes outside except the signage, but sleepy-eyed within our carriage, a sense of quiet contentment awaits. A new day in a new land. I alight at Port Boo and watch as the train pulls onwards. Stretch and smile at the cat outside the cafeteria door. Blink up at the church and the blue-grey vista of rolling Catalonia. 45 minutes until the train to Figueres. Time for coffee. I rummage for my notebook and pen and turn to a fresh page. I place the pen in readiness beside the book, sit back and breathe.
Excellent. Yeah, I got the feel of a real journey in that piece. So yeah, I got beautiful stuff that was. So that's a really good piece now. Okay, what's number two then?
Great. Okay. Okay. We'll do this one. Well, I'll tell you what. The next one I'm going to do. This is one. And so I spoke a little bit about my sort of childhood influences earlier, and this was not written when I was a kid, but written looking back to some extent back to those days. And this is called Barely Talking. The dog was going slowly blind and you were barely talking. The wood yard on a Saturday morning was overexposed summer delight. The brakes on my bicycle were shot with the bottom of the hill approaching fast. Blackjacks and fruit salads, flying saucers and a sherbet dab. Charlie George at the petrol station drew a crowd of Kodak kids while the Rubettes played a matinee show of Sweet Sugar Baby Love. The vicar's daughter and I had little to say, but still a date was a date. The film club showed Puppet on a Chain. It was light as I walked you to your door. No one saw it coming, least of all me, and by the time it did, the dog had died and you were barely talking.
Excellent. Yeah, I like the fact there we brought the title and the poem right at the end of it. I think it brings the piece full circle to me. And yeah, excellent. That was really, really evocative. Good stuff, mate.
It's one of those for certain people they won't know what blackjacks and fruit salads are. You have to be a certain age, don't you?
Well, yeah, I do. I'm old enough to remember it. I'm not so going to say that. So. Okay, mate. What's the third piece then for us?
Okay, I'll do something kind of positive because I don't want everything to be depressing and dark. So I'll do something that's a relatively positive piece. So this is called One Simple Day. It's a cortado at Charlie's. Sunshine on a September day. The sound of Martha Reeves and the Vandellas. It's like a heat wave. It's the kiss you didn't expect, the smile that melts your heart, the moment that an ending becomes a brand new start. It's the CD in the mail you forgot you'd even ordered, the selfless act of kindness, the plane that has been boarded, the flight to new adventure, the culture to explore, the silence in the gallery, the painting on the wall, the vista from the balcony, the river's ebb and flow. It's knowing when to speak out and knowing when to go. It's the solitary vino beneath the railway arch, the warmth of meditation and the changing of the path. It's peppermint and chamomile, it's sandalwood and sage, the cat that sits upon you, the turning of the page. It's a day that has been lived, it's a peace within the night. It's the closing of a chapter, like turning off the light. It's the whistling of the wind outside, the coolness of the sheets. It's exhaling, oh so gently, as you slowly fall asleep.
Ooh, again, the tone at the end of it is really, really good, your piece there, because you're very, very good at the end, obviously finishing the ending's off like that. No, excellent stuff again. Now, I think you were doing one more poem for us today, weren't you? Or am I imagining things?
I can quite happily do.
Yeah. Give us a big finale then, and we'll talk a little bit about your album after that as well.
Oh my God, okay. Big finale.
I like that word. You're a musician. Musicians are used to big finales.
Well, it's true. Yeah. Let me have a look. Okay. Yeah, let's do this then. So I'll finish off with this one. This is a thing called we. Plain and simple. Okay. We live for cheap supermarkets with international stock. The reticent middle class of Middle England, we worry about the wars and the parking charges, the discriminatory nature of our government's bills. We squabble when the money is tight and bicker over our working class ancestry. We are civilly disobedient when the situation calls and obediently civil to lax waiters and traffic wardens. We cry in private when our loved ones die from inexplicable cancers and look into the eyes of our pets for condolence. We have friends on the continent, we are citizens of the world, yet we avoid certain streets in our beloved hometown. The fairy lights in the garden provide a grotto to no god, whilst our scented candles enhance our well-being. We contemplate the gym, yet it remains a foreign land. Part-time Buddhists with Catholic guilt, we only discuss the other face behind closed doors for fear of offending or being considered politically incorrect. We log on to our social media in fear that the virtual world might move on without us. Hashtag LOLWTF, pills to keep us awake and pills to help us sleep. Therapy is the new normality, caffeine-free and embracing our anxiety. Our illness is never discussed, our distress remains publicly concealed. We are 21st century, alone and dying, history in the making, a minor experiment in paranoia and as normal as the rest. Our past rewritten by paedophile TV presenters. Press, delete, erase, eradicate, reinvent. We're okay, can't complain. The future is bright, the future is unwritten. Turn off the lights when you leave. Life is a game show and love is the prize. We are all extras and the camera is rolling. Everything is available on catch-up, preview and pay-to-play. Photoshopped and auto-tuned to within an inch. Text me sometime. Smiley face. LUVX.
Great stuff. That's a brilliant way to finish off the recorded part of it, Grae. Yeah, really, really good piece. That indeed. So it's a great, definitely the big finale, as I would say there.
Thanks.
Right. Okay. Seriously, before we let you go, obviously we're going to put on as two extra pieces, 2 tracks from mouseclubvirusblues. Tell people a little bit about the waiting lounge and then also the bomb as well. We should have got both extra tracks because we're going to feature.
Yeah, for sure. So the waiting lounge was a piece that I literally wrote in an airport waiting lounge, and it was inspired by that feeling that this one little room was like a microcosm of the entire world. And it actually there's a film by Louis Buñuel in which there's this kind of bourgeois dinner party, and nobody is able to leave the room. They're all stuck in this room, and it felt a bit like that in an awful funny way. We could be living in the waiting lounge for the rest of our lives. That's a depressing thing.
Yeah, it's a good metaphor. It's a good metaphor, really, definitely. So,
yeah.
Now, what's the bomb about? Yes.
The bomb. I kind of don't want to put too many spoilers in there, but it's I love what's nice about the bomb is that people might imagine that it's going to be perhaps me being all urban terrorist and guerrilla, and actually it's the opposite of that. So that's all I'm going to say.
Perfect. Well, that's everything for today, Grae. So it's been a fantastic session. I've really enjoyed today. So hang around. I need a quick word of your mic. Well, thank you again. It's been a pleasure today chatting to you and meeting you. So
thanks ever so much. It's been a pleasure.
I take care, guys and girls. Stay safe if possible. See you all soon. Take care. Bye.
Spoken Lavel.
Damaged and snowbound, awaiting recovery, eyes seared from jungle fires and late nights of penetrating darkness. The waiting lounge is Cold War grey, paranoia and caffeine frazzle. We regret to announce the gabardine hyenas at the bar are starting early. All pockmarked bravado and shaving rash smiles. They shuffle uncomfortably and eye with suspicion are the Lone Star cruisers and love-long dreamers. Combination cases of guilt and repression, all bloodshot and static and longing. All dreams for purchase in a war-torn world. The sad-eyed lady sings from the walls, fluffed and fakery, clean and calm, sorrow for sale through the neon buzz, duty-free and sweet perfumed, floating past the newsstand roll call, disarming sugar light. The cameras are rolling. We stare at the monitors, unable to leave the waiting lounge until our gate is called.
Spoken Lavel.
If I don't turn on the TV, will the ugliness cease to exist? Pregnant woman stoned to death, grieving parents left bereft, 200 schoolchildren spirited away. The shrapnel shards penetrate and pervade each waking day, every day. The pontiff surveys the holy war and genuflects. If you tolerate this, then your children will shop at Next. If I had the know-how to make a single thing, a bomb it would be of love and peace and understanding, to drop within this tortured planet's heart, so when I awoke, a joyous new day could start. But making such a thing would surely be too hard, and then I'm no inventor, just a lowly bard. But if you seek a hope within my words, then I can offer some. Wake up tomorrow, dearest friend, and simply be that bomb.
Spoken Lavel.